Milsurp Garage with the M1 Garand. Just want to show you a couple of things. Nice. This is the coolest rifle ever. If you want to start a Milsurp collecting hobby, start with one of these, because if you never get another one, at least you'll have the greatest rifle ever made. Let's put it that way. What do we have here? Well, we have realistic snap caps. Okay. RealisticSnapcaps.com. These are the 3006 examples. Nice firing pin cushioning going on here. Awesome. Now, we have these guys. Thought this would be kind of cool to show. This is a 2-round. There's also a 5-round that these guys sell, as well as regular 8-round ones. But you can get plenty of the military surplus 8-round ones, but these 5-round ones, or these 2-round ones, are interesting. Why would you need a 2-round one? Well, for match shooting, you have to shoot 10 rounds, right? The M1 Garand only has 8 rounds in the end block, so you would have to slap in this 2-round one to finish off your round. So that's why they make these. And then they make 5-round ones because for hunting you're not allowed to have a certain amount, over a certain amount of rounds in your rifle when you go hunting. So they have a 5. This is the 5-round one. See how they just kind of clip down the amount of space that where it holds the rounds together, but the size of the clip itself has to stay constant so it functions in the rifle, right? Same as this guy. The size stays the same in the back, but so you could use either side here. You could put the rounds in. And this would be interesting for people who live in areas where there's certain areas where you're not allowed to have semi-automatic rifles with more than 5 rounds in the magazine. And they kind of say that even though this isn't really a typical magazine, it's not a detachable magazine, but there are some jurisdictions, like New York City is one, where you're not even allowed to have a rifle or a shotgun or whatever that has a capacity of more than 5 rounds, regardless of whether it's a detachable magazine or not. So you could have like a Mauser, like a K98 Mauser, has 5 rounds go in it, but because this is 8, and then you try to tell them like, well, it's not dependent on that, really. You know, if you have a bunch of these end blocks that have 5 rounds, maybe you have an argument. If you didn't, then you wouldn't really have an argument. You say, well, you're not going to be able to shoot it otherwise. Show you a cool way to load these things. You see how there's like kind of like a space for the rim here? You see that mark? So make sure you get the first one right in there. All right, so you make sure it's sitting in where the rim goes, and the first 2 are the important ones. So you make sure that that's sitting there, and then after that you just stack them. And then make sure they're all in there, and then it's the last one. This is the pivotal one. You make sure that that's all the way back, and you press that one home. See, and then you just make sure that this is in the rim there. See how it's in that, and then there you go. So now with these, you just functions the same as a regular end block clip. It's just that it's not going to click into place when you push down. So when you push down, see, it's not going to click into place and release the bolt, which is actually a good thing, because if you didn't know what you were doing with an 8-round clip here and you just pushed it down, it could potentially slam shut on your finger at that point. So at least this one, it doesn't release. So you kind of have to hold it down and manually pull the bolt back, and you kind of ride over the rounds. Then when you want to, right now there's nothing in the chambers, right? Or you could conceivably, hold on, you could conceivably press this down and then let it up to where you feel the first round getting caught, and then it would chamber it. Let's get that back. But it's easier this way, trust me. You just shove it down all the way and you just let the bolt close. You just want to make sure it doesn't slam shut on your hand. That's the important thing. So once you get to that point, then you can chamber. Now, playing around with the Garand chambering rounds is friggin' fun. I'm sorry. And you do not want to mess around doing this with live rounds. Trust me, not with this rifle. You could look at the primary extraction here. You see this? See, now you could play. You see how there's movement here this is the whole piston moving right here. This isn't just this bolt handle. This is the piston all the way underneath here moving when I do that. See it? And that piston right over here is picking up the gas. So the bullet travels all the way down from here. The bullet travels all the way down, and when it reaches this point, when it passes right here, right around where the front sight is, that distance where the bullet travels from here to here, that's what makes the whole rifle work. That little bit of distance, because as the bullet crosses here, see what it'll do is the bullet will travel down here, and when it reaches past this spot, there's a little hole right here that lets gas into this tube, and this tube has the piston, and that piston gets pushed back in here, and the piston getting pushed back this far from here to here, that's the distance that this bolt handle will travel here. It's directly geared to it, you know what I mean? Nothing detaches here. It's not like some of those ones where you ever see like those short piston op rods, like on the SKS and stuff like that, and the SVT. Is it on the SVT? No, it's on the SKS, where it just hits it and the inertia of the bolt travels back. This doesn't do that. This just where the piston goes, the bolt handle goes. Where the bolt handle goes, the bolt goes. It's all just directly geared. You know what I mean? So here's they call this the gas block for that reason. So when this is being pushed back, now let's see what goes on over here. As soon as that bullet passes this area, gas starts pushing that piston. The bullet's not completely out yet, but it can't open. Back here cannot open when this bullet is still here, because there's tremendous pressure behind it. The bullet has to exit the barrel, and that pressure has to dissipate before the bolt could open. So what do they do at that time? Well, here's the piston moving. Bang. Passes that area. See, as it passes that area, there's this movement here with absolutely nothing happening. That's important. Then when it reaches here, it's cammed right here. See, that happens so fast. It's hard to do it slow. It's cammed right here. Watch this. See that? That's the turning. That's like primary extraction. It turns. See that? It twists the bullet, because look, if you had to pull this cartridge case that just expanded, this cartridge case just expanded against the walls of the barrel right here. If you had to pull that out and you just grabbed it and pulled straight back, you'd be like, how would you get it out? If you were trying to do it, you would twist it, right? You twist, it would come right out. That's the theory here, is that it will twist. Primary extraction, that's called. And if that's all just done by camming inside here with a lug that cams inside this area right here. So if you're interested why this looks all built up like that here, that's the reason. There's a lug here that cams that to twist it. Then once it twists it, it starts opening. By now the bullet has completely left the barrel, and this piston is being pushed back by the pressure that was put into this gas block. That pressure is now dissipated by fully pushing the barrel back. Here comes the brass. the brass will hit, and that round underneath it is ready to go. You can see it there. It's ready. It hits the extractor. Disconnects. I'm sorry. It hits the ejector. Disconnects from the extractor. This extractor right here is what was pulling it back. Then the bolt goes all the way back behind the next round in line. Then the bolt starts moving forward with spring pressure, and as it moves forward, you would peel the next round out of that end block magazine and chamber it. And we're all ready to go again. And in that, as the bolt moved back and all that stuff moved back, it cocked the hammer. There is a hammer inside of here. There's an actual hammer, just like you'd see on a handgun, on a revolver. And then boom, boom, boom. Oh, that was a freaking anticlimactic thing. Why did that happen? I've never seen that happen. Let's do that again. That was the one part everybody was waiting for. I should edit that, but no, I'm not going to. Wah, wah, wah. Let's close this up again. Now I can't even load the end block clip. I failed. No. We will recover. We will come back stronger than we were before. All right. Let's try that again. Do you want to shoot him now or wait till you get home? Shoot him now. Shoot him now. He doesn't have to shoot me now. Why? Say he does have to shoot me now. So shoot me now. You ready? All right, this is the one. We have the last round chambered. Bang! Here we go. That's what everybody wants to see. What's the matter with you? M1 Garand. It's been sleeping in the gun safe too long. That's what it was. So yeah, close that gingerly. Be careful of your fingers. So the M1 Garand, what can be said? Well, listen, I'll tell you what can be said. These snap caps, you can buy them 5 rounds like this, or you can get them, because the M1 Garand is an 8-round clip. He sells 8 rounds with an M1 Garand end block. Just, I don't know if you don't have the rifle and you just want the end block filled with the rounds, like as a display, you got that. Or you could use it as your special M1 Garand clip that you use just to cycle through the snap caps. But you don't have to buy 2 5-round sets to end up with 8. He will sell you a special M1 Garand set that's 8 rounds. But if you just want, you know, the 5 for your 03 Springfield or something like that, go to town. But the 8 rounds could come in handy too if you have a 1917, because that takes 6 rounds of 30-06 inside. So if you want to just make sure that 6th round functions properly, then rock and roll with it. So it's realisticsnapcaps.com. Use coupon code Milsurp Garage, one word, MILSURPGARAGE, for 10% off and free shipping, ladies and gentlemen. So the M1 Garand in my collection is it's a later one. Most of this is 50s, I think. But there's some things, like one time I broke it down. Should we get that out? Let's get it out. Let's poke around. Let's see what. Let's go over this M1 Garand a little bit and talk about it. What do we got here? My stock markings are AA for Augusta Arsenal. My barrel marking is Springfield Armory, March of 1943. My bolt is March 1945 dating. My trigger group housing dates to 1944, 1944 to 1945, somewhere in there. The hammer is USGI 1 from the 50s. The op rod is an HRA op rod. It's all over the place, this thing. But the manufacturing date from the receiver is 1953. That's why my M1 Garand. I have it a long time. This is what started my interest in Milsurps right here. This is one of my first purchased, and I fell in love. Yeah, just the intricacy of the design, yet simplicity, and just really spending a lot of time on identifying really exactly how this worked with this piston and everything. It was one of the first things I ever played with to understand how semi-automatic rifles like this worked. So it means a lot to me. And Merry Christmas, everybody. I hope you enjoyed watching me cycle some rounds through my M1 Garand, because I can't imagine having a more fun time. I'm going to do it about 50 more times and love the sound of that end block being released. By the way, if you pull the bolt back to right about there, you'll feel like resistance right there, like it hits something. It is. It's the bolt hitting the hammer. The hammer's back, but the bolt being pushed back is hitting the hammer right there. So if you pull the trigger right at that moment, the hammer will ride down on the bolt and not slam home. Right there, see? Now I can pull the trigger. I decocked it, see? You can feel it, because now it's harder to pull back the op rod because you would be cocking the hammer. That's how you would want to store it, without the hammer cocked, so you don't, screw up that spring. And ladies and gentlemen, that is that. Told you I'd be back with something. That's what I got for you. Later.